All right, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I got to grab something here real quick. Pastor Paul here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Roe v. Wade. Sorry, I made a little bit of a mess on the desk, and I got to clean it up first before I jump in. Oh, hi, Ruth Ann. No, you're not in the wrong time zone. I just was on a little bit late. So we're going to talk a little bit about Roe. Let me do a little bit of mindfulness. I haven't been doing my mindfulness moment lately because I've been busy with some other things, but I love to go into a spiritual moment, start with some incense. So we'll have the incense going as we talk. My topic today is going to be, if you're celebrating the overturn of Roe, why? And do you need to check your heart? Jamie, I'm on the backup account on TikTok if you want to jump on there. You can stay on YouTube if you want. Good idea, incense. So yeah, so as we're getting ready to talk about this sensitive topic of Roe and why I believe the right-wing anti-abortion extremism of the church isn't biblical, and the celebration of, Jamie, let me know when you're on TikTok. You may not be a moderator over there on my backup account. We'll see how many people join me. Okay, I'm here now. Let me see if I've got you as a moderator. Add moderator, cool. Let me follow you as well. Okay, thanks, Jamie. What is your backup on TikTok? Linked on your main? No, my main account on TikTok has been hijacked and is being held hostage for ransom. I'm being asked to pay a ransom to get my account back. And so it's not working for me right now. And I'm hoping TikTok will help me get it back. But so right now all I have is my backup account, which is Swearing Pastor Paul. In fact, I think I have a banner that I can, there we go. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Let me know where you're joining from. We like to connect by place. I'm in Fresno, California. And we're going to talk about, if you're celebrating the overturn of Roe, do you need to check your heart? And it may be a little bit of a rhetorical question. All right, Heart Tans on TikTok is from New York. Angie Huff says hello. Julie Swaim says Colorado. Vancouver, Washington, from Steph Deconstructed in the house. Yeah, so I just want to start this as a spiritual moment. Thank you for the likes, Jamie. Gilead, Tennessee, for Angie. Good to see you from Tennessee. The heart behind the red curtain of Tennessee. Mississippi. Hottie Toddy. I don't know what Hottie Toddy, Mississippi means. What does that say? Swaharita, Arizona. Frederica's from Nevada. Facebook user says, I'm from Weed, California. I'm grieving the overturn. Devin from Sacramento is here. Hi, Devin. Texas in the house. Navray. Matthew from Ohio. Johnny from Ole Miss. All right, Johnny. So let's just have a moment as we're joining together before we jump into talking about Roe. And as you can see, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, my TikTok account's been hijacked and is being held hostage. And so if you would go interact with my backup account at Swearing Pastor Paul, that would be a big help. But I'm able to go live on the backup account, which you guys on TikTok are on. So make sure you're following my page if you're on TikTok, because we got over 1,000 users. So I think I'm gonna do the jiggy dance, and that may drive people away from the account. I don't know. But let's just have a moment together as we get started here. And Arkansas is in the house. Hi, Kristen. My wife was born in Arkansas, and I have a great cousin and their two great daughters that live in Arkansas. F the Supreme Court, says Water John. Facebook user says, nice earrings. Thank you. I thought they look kind of cool with this sweatshirt, with this hoodie. So I decided to try them tonight. Thank you for following my page on TikTok, Johnny G. You're awesome. Another Texas in the house, Jake Mate. Angie says, I'm 32. I'm a 32-year nurse veteran being called a baby killer. Well, for anybody that calls a pro-choice person a baby killer, I would say that Jesus says to you, you've heard it say, don't murder, but I say to you, if you talk to somebody from the malice of your heart, you are worthy of hellfire. So Angie, I'm sorry that happened. Navray says, the earrings are nice, but I love the necklace. Thank you. Hi, Carol Ann. How are you? Sacramento in the house from Carol Ann. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Julie says, I feel this from my soul. They are calling my mother a baby killer, and she would never choose to do that. Yeah, it just comes from bad theology, bad teaching, the belief that any means necessary to overturn government, to take control of government and impose Christian nationalism is God endorsed. And it's just such a lie. Such a lie. Caroline says, I'm doing okay. So keep your comments coming. I'll try to get to them, but I just want to have a moment of quiet together. We are in this space together. We are fellow human beings, fellow travelers on this journey of emotional and spiritual well-being together. And I just want to recognize how amazingly valuable you are as a human being, as a being on this planet, as somebody deserving to be loved. I just speak amazing life and blessing over you, and just tell you that God, whatever God looks like to you, I do not impose my evangelical Christian God on you. In fact, I don't even see God that way anymore, but the goodness of heaven, the spirit of heaven speaks blessing over you. Yeah, so I just send my love and blessing to you. So if you're celebrating the overturn of Roe v. Wade today, I'm challenging you to check your heart. I saw a great post from a friend of mine this week, pastor friend, who said, if you're celebrating Roe, but you're not hearing the pain of our wives and sisters and daughters, then you just don't know Jesus. You just don't know the heart of Jesus. And I think there are some Christians that aren't fully celebrating, because I think there is a little bit of an oh shit, we're the dog that caught the bumper now. I think many of my extreme anti-abortionist right-wing friends are like, wow, we didn't know there would be this outcry across the land. I think there are millennials and Gen Zers who are going to vote against Republicans now, who are going to sit out the next two elections because they're angry at the Democrats for not fulfilling their promises, that now will say, oh, we have to vote against Republicans at all costs, even if it's to vote for Joe Biden, even if it's to vote for a candidate that we don't like very much. So I think it will enliven anti-Republican sentiment, and I think it just shows how dangerous Christian nationalism is. And if you're able to celebrate and say, yeah, we got him, I'm showing you, check your heart. I remember my evangelical days of, our lives being really sucky because we worshiped a really harsh, evil, mean God. And just thinking, yeah, but someday I'll be in heaven and I'll get to say to those sinners, ha, who got the last laugh here? Not realizing that that's not the heart of God at all. I was talking about the story of Jonah this week. And Jonah chapter 4 talks about how Jonah, a lot of people will hear the story of Jonah and Nineveh, and they'll say, well, Nineveh repented. But there's a key in Jonah chapter 4 where Jonah says, I didn't want to come to Nineveh because I knew you were going to have mercy on them. I knew you were a merciful God. So I went in the opposite direction because I knew you were going to have mercy on the Ninevites. And then there's another real key verse in there that says, that God says to Jonah, like, do you do well to want me to punish and destroy people who don't believe as you do? Do you do well to think this way? And he ultimately says, you care about a plant dying that was giving you shade, and you had nothing to do with that plant, but you don't want me to care about 120,000 human beings that I created. And he says this, he said, who don't know their right hand from their left. See, God measures sin very differently than evangelicals do. Sin is not a code. Jesus didn't come to wipe out the law and put in a new law. We're going to get rid of the law, and it's all going to, I hear this from Christians all the time. It's not religion, it's relationship, but here are the rules. That's religion, my friend. And if you're a religious zealot who has wanted to see Roe overturned, and now you're like, yeah, God, I'm in your face, check your heart. Jesus said to religious people who wanted to impose their religious beliefs into governmental code, you've heard it say, don't murder. But I say to you, if you have malice in your heart, you are the one worthy of hellfire. He said to the very religious, sorry, I got to do something here on YouTube and Facebook. Sorry, hang on 1 second with me. TikTok, are we doing okay? So Jesus said, hey, you religious people of Capernaum, you think you're righteous? You think you're going to be lifted up to heaven at the end of time? He said, no, I'm telling you that Sodom is going to have a better judgment day than you. And I believe if Jesus were incarnate on earth today and he would see the reaction of Christians to the overturning of Roe, he would see the single issue Christian voter who is manipulated by a political topic, not a religious one. And he would say, you're the one worthy of hellfire. He would say, Sodom's going to have a better judgment day than you. Because self-righteousness and the desire to impose religious bondage onto others is what Jesus decried and mocked so much more. Hi, Westworld South. How are you? Jill, I'll make you a moderator too on the new account. Wow, Jill, you got 38,000 followers. Well done. Well done. Who knew showing all those parents at board meetings would take off like that, huh? So if you are celebrating the overturn of Roe and you see the pain of fellow human beings, check your heart. I'm convinced that American Christianity, as it's become today, and I use that word Christianity because I don't see much Christ in it anymore. Christianity takes away your humanity, and it definitely causes you to see other human beings as less than human. Oh, fetuses, you'll claim are human all day long, but the second the umbilical cord is cut, you don't give a shit about that person anymore. They are none of your responsibility at that point. And you claim that's godly. And I think Jesus would say to you, Sodom will have a better judgment day than you. The overturning of Roe v. Wade was not a victory for the church. It was not a victory for the gospel. It is the opposite of that. It is a stance in the church that is driving away 2 generations from the church. The millennials and Gen Zers are running as far and as fast from you as they can. And it's not because they're sinful and awful. It's because they think you're assholes. And they see nothing of Jesus in your churches. And so if we're willing to run 2 generations from church, oh yeah, we're trying to use smoke machines and skinny jeans, as Andy Stanley says, to bring them back. And they're saying, you guys are full of shit. If we're going to chase away 2 generations because we believe being anti-abortion extremist is God's number one rule for us as a Christian, we better make sure the Bible backs that up. Gen X is leaving as well, says Trisha. You're right. And the Bible simply does not back up. I see nothing. I mean, literally, I see nothing in the Bible that backs up the idea of a single issue human being, a single issue voter, nor backs up the idea that life begins at conception. It just doesn't exist in the Bible. And I was telling people the other night this, if you want to use Jeremiah 1:5, or you want to use Psalm 139, or you want to use any of the 10 commandments, or you want to use Luke 1, let me tell you something really important for you to know. None of the writers of those passages, not one of them, believed that life began at conception. Not a one of them. It was never a belief of first century Judaism, the religion that some would say you've stolen and taken to make into your own religion, and others would say is the foundation of your religion. None of those writers would have believed life began at conception. Not Jeremiah, not Luke, if Luke wrote Luke, not David writing Psalm 139, and not, we believe Moses wrote the passage of the 10 commandments. None of them would have believed life begins at conception, and neither would have Jesus. It was not in the belief system. The belief system of the Jewish faith is that either life begins at first breath, or some of my Jewish brothers and sisters tell me they believe the soul enters the body at bodily viability, like that God will not put a soul into a body that's not going to survive. And so that is part of the belief as well. Jamie says, I imagine the courts are going to be a little more busy with child support cases soon. Facebook user says, thank you. It's been a long 28 years leading a faith-based, compassionate pregnancy and parenting organization. The most brutal behavior I've experienced is from Christians and pastors. And yes, we shifted from a CPC model beginning in 1995 that was spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically harming women and their partners. Wow. I think there are some people who truly run pregnancy care centers and think they're caring for people, but you're right, it is spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically harming to people. Tricia says Gen X is leaving as well. Ruth Ann says, there you are. No, but the dogs outside the neighbors are going crazy. Tricia says, this Gen X and my kids have started listening to you and others that feel as you, and my kids start to understand again. That's cool. Thank you. Guys, I don't take guests on right now very much. If you want to send me a comment of why you want to come on, you can let me know. I may see it, I may not. They scroll by pretty quickly, but thank you guys for all the likes. And again, I'm on my backup account on TikTok, Swearing Pastor Paul, because my main TikTok account got hijacked and is being held hostage. They're demanding ransom for me to get it back, not by TikTok, by a random hacker, and I'm not going to pay it. So somebody says, why do my comments show up as Facebook user rather than my name? Because you have to put your permission for your name to be used before you come in. So you may want to, Facebook user, whoever that is, you may want to pop out and pop back in and see if it gives you a place to give them permission to show your name. Is that right, Trisha? I see your name is showing up on Facebook. Carol Ann says, yep, Gen X here, and I don't intend to ever enter an evangelical church again. It's true. Jamie says, prayer in school is now allowed again. Oh, my friend Eve was framed. She had a great post on that today. She said, She said, "Did you hear what happened? There was a witch leading, a girls' softball team in high school, and she would ask the team to gather around her, and she would share about her pagan religion, and she would lead them in witch incantations. And she told the team, 'You don't have to be a part of this if you don't want to.' But the team knew and understood that if you wanted to be part of the team, you had to be part of these rituals and allow this witch to lead you in incantations." Can you believe that is happening in America? And you're like, "Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, I got the story wrong. It was a football coach, and he was doing Christian prayers and forcing the team around him to have Christian moments where he could explain Christianity to them. And they weren't forced to come around with him, but everybody understood if you were part of the team, you would come around him." I thought that is brilliant. Can you imagine the losing their shit that would happen from Christians if a witch or a Muslim were leading prayers after a football game and the team was being compelled out of peer pressure to join around, and they would just lose their shit. But because it's a Christian prayer and we want to impose Christianity on America and on its people, then it's okay for us to do it. It's okay because we were born a Christian nation, even though the Christian founders weren't very Christian and specifically said we're not going to be a Christian nation. Navary says there would be all kinds of outrage. Yeah, if you're just joining us, let me know where you're joining from. If you're on my backup account on TikTok, make sure you follow my page. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, I would appreciate you going to TikTok. You can do it right now and follow, look for Swearing Pastor Paul, because I like to cuss. So it's Swearing Pastor Paul, and follow my page over there, and we're going to keep growing it. Westworld South. Jill says, these people around here would freak out if they had mindfulness in school, but they have a Bible study. Isn't that the truth? I have my incense going right now for our mindfulness time today. So if you're a Christian here, I want to know, are you celebrating that you've imposed Christian religion, or I guess you're now free at the state level to impose your Christian religion through the civil law onto others, something that Jesus specifically was against doing and said, if you try to do that, if you follow a religion that is politically and nationalistically intertwined, you'll be eating a leaven that will make you blind. You won't have eyes to see or ears to hear anymore. So are you celebrating that you can now impose your religion through state law onto others? And my question always is, where do you see in the Bible that the Bible endorses single issue voting? And where do you see that the Bible says life begins at conception? Hint, it doesn't. But I'd love to see you try. Jill says they had graduation mass for the graduation from a public school. You're in North Carolina, and they had mass for the students for a public school. Carol Ann says, were students required to attend? Not required, but around here, not participating sets them up for bullying. Jamie says, in the case of SCOTUS, they ruled that the football coach was making the students pray. SCOTUS said the coach is, because I would argue that any high school kid would feel intense peer pressure to be a part of that prayer. I've seen it happen in schools that have prayer after games all the time. Devin on Facebook says, I attend a church that is part of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. A couple of years ago, our pastor mentioned that the EPC was considering dropping the term evangelical from the title. He said it's been co-opted over the years and no longer has the original meaning. Boy, I don't disagree with that at all. I have definitely dropped the title evangelical for myself. I think it is a dirty, dirty word. Ruth Ann on YouTube says, I argued in my ethics class in college that abortion was just another wrong committed against a fetus, but not having control of my body feels wrong too. I'm from the fascist state of Texas. All right, Ruth Ann, thank you for sharing. Julie says, I will never enter a church or follow a preacher that chooses or teaches to ostracize and condemn rather than help a person who needs it. Yeah, there is, I would argue, not a single verse that says life begins at conception, therefore you should go ban abortion. Jesus never once hinted in the slightest, in fact, quite the opposite, that here's a religious principle, let's go make sure we take over the government and put this into law. I think he said quite the opposite. And but there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of verses that say, take care of the poor, the marginalized, the foreigner, and the widow. And I think the widow means anyone who is economically disadvantaged from an equal chance of survival from the rest. Because that was why widows had to be taken care of, because they had no land ownership rights, they had no business ownership rights. And so once their husband died, if they didn't have sons to take it over, they lost everything. And so widows are the economically disadvantaged. So then I would say those verses demand not only having like backpack handouts and food pantries, as churches love to do, because then, we can have the poor come to our door, be their savior, and then, say we gave it the office and not have to give a shit about people. But the widows mean you have to care, I think, about systemic issues in your culture as well. Jill says, I don't know why they bothered to make me memorize the works of mercy. Whistleblower says, absolutely love your accessories. Thank you. I kind of dig them. Yeah, I thought, well, this will be kind of fun with wearing my Amsterdam hoodie. And, and I know, so I kind of wear these because I like them and I like to express myself through different ways. And I like that it breaks down gender norms. And I like that it drives Christian people freaking crazy. So all of those things are important to me. It's interesting since my main TikTok account has been hijacked, and I'm on my backup account. I'm not getting a lot of play on my TikTok live today, but that's okay. We're rebuilding. It's fun. They look awesome, says Actuan1. Thank you. Actuan says, I have a friend posting from the latest survey on why people are leaving. It's so off the mark. Oh, there's no question. Every survey says the reason people are leaving the evangelical church and doing it at record rates is the staunch conservatism and political beliefs. It is, well, what is the church known for? Is it known for the gospel? No, the church, the evangelical church is known for being extremist, anti-abortionist, anti-gay, now like gun-toting crazy people that want to go around shooting people and calling it self-defense. That's us in the church. I would say they're also known now for wanting low taxes in their churches that pay no taxes. And then somewhere down the way, they're not known for the gospel. They're not known for the good news. Evangelicals are known for trying to impose their religious beliefs onto others. Crazy Demon Mother says, I just fear women's and minority rights will be reversed completely. So we can get active, start making noise, which we must. And I'm just going to say it out loud. And you must vote against Republicans at every level. Vote in every election, and anybody that has an R beside their name, do not vote for that person. I don't care who they are. It doesn't matter if they're really good people, because the party is so evil and so bent on corruption now, and truly has a leader in Der Leader Trump, or maybe Der Fuhrer Trump. What do we call him now? Like Messiah Trump? What is his title now? The Der Fuhrer Trump, Der Leader Trump, is wanting to overturn any chance of real elections happening. So this is just like any banana republic in the history of the world. We have a minority party trying to take over permanently and get rid of any way that they can be voted out of office by, they've got the court stacked now. That has worked. And so, guys, I mean, I hate to say it, I am not a Democrat, but I'm going to tell you this. If you're voting for Republicans now, I got to question your soul. I really do. It's crazy. And that I have Christian people saying, oh, it's okay that he tried to overturn the government because Democrats have been so mean to him for so long. It's okay. It's crazy. Jameson says, why tax churches? The money will just go into the pockets of politicians. I understand that sentiment, but I still think government represents the heart of our people. So we just need to elect better people. And I think if, my wife has been an elected official in her life, and there are people like my wife who really want to make a difference. And what you get are people saying, well, all politicians are corrupt, so your wife's corrupt. People would say all politicians are corrupt. I would say, well, my wife is one. And they'd say, well, not your wife. And I'm like, isn't it amazing that the one elected official in all the world is not corrupt? We have to stop being lazy and just saying, well, all politicians are corrupt, even though I understand where it's coming from and there's some part of that. We need to start standing up and doing something about it. And so the start right now, because of the existential threat that exists in the world, is you have to vote against Republicans at every level, every election, from school board to dog catcher to president. You have to vote against Republicans. I'm not saying you have to like the person you're voting for. I'm saying you have to vote against the person with an R beside their name, because the party has become so unbelievably corrupt and evil that we've got to stand against that evil. And then what I would love to see happen is we need a third party. We desperately need a third party in the United States. Now, we've stacked this two-party system, particularly with the Electoral College. The Electoral College almost assures we'll never have a viable third party. The Electoral College is a terrible thing. It was input by wealthy men to make sure that they could overturn an election of the people if they so chose. And yes, there is one passage that says it was about the smaller states. And again, I think it's totally corrupt that a person in Wyoming, their vote for president counts massively more than a person from Texas or New York or California or Illinois. I think that's corrupt. But we need to overturn the Electoral College because it takes away our democratic voice, and it almost ensures we'll never have a third party rise up. We need to change the setup of the Supreme Court. It is not working anymore. We need no more lifetime appointments for SCOTUS. It's not working. And is my battery running out on my phone? And we need some other things to happen. Yeah, the Supreme Court justices lied under oath. We cannot have a Supreme Court stacked with people who believe their purpose is so godly and so righteous that they can lie under oath. Somebody, excuse me, going after a lifetime appointment as a judge in the highest court of the land felt it was okay to lie under oath in their nomination hearings. It is beyond belief what we have become as a Christian nation. Yes, a third, fourth, fifth party would be great, Devin, but right now, let's just go for the third. Well, right now, we've got to vote out Republicans because they are an existential threat to the country. And then I would like to see what could happen to grow a third party. I don't have nearly as many Christians on tonight as I had the other day losing their mind. Because I love to ask Christians, where do you get the idea that God would support you being a single issue voter and calling people baby killer? And where do you get the idea that life begins at conception because it's not in the Bible. Jameson says, I'm a Christian. Okay, Jameson, thank you for saying that. He says, I feel that a blue wave is coming. I definitely think it was going to be a red wipeout in the midterms in November. I think that might change a little bit with what's happening now. Karen says, why are we being forced to live under Catholicism when we're supposed to have a separation between church and state? Judaism, the life and health of the mother comes first. That is, I totally agree with that statement. Jake says, I'd be happy to help answer that question as a Christian, but I don't believe those things. I agree. My mom uses the Holocaust argument in the passages you mentioned earlier. What does the Holocaust have to do with them? Oh, like we're having a genocide of abortion. Yeah, that's a totally BS argument. Jill says, yeah, I'm not sure what they were thinking with this move. I almost like the dim. It's almost like the Dems have the court. Yeah, I really think, Pete Buttigieg had an idea. Devin says, I'm not convinced about the anti-Republican sentiment you're referring to. I'd like to see a decent, sane Republican rise up and destroy Trumpism, take their party back. I would love that too. Devin, my wife and I are Republicans and have been Republicans all their life, but the Republican Party no longer exists. There is only the Trump Party, and the Trump Party has been actively since 2015 and is openly and outwardly now trying to overthrow fair elections in the country. They want to install themselves as dictators and never have to face a fair election ever again. So I agree with you. I think we need two strong parties. I think we need a third party, but right now there's nothing we can do except vote against Republicans. They have Cheney and Kinzinger, and that's about it. Well, Kinzinger's going out, and Cheney probably is going to get voted out. So they're gone. You can't survive in the Republican Party and be thoughtful and reasonable anymore. Devin says the Republican Party left me. Jameson says, I think it's hilarious that I quote Jesus and I make other Christians angry. Love is innate, hate is taught. Yeah. Yep. So true. I miss John McCain. I even voted against John McCain because I wanted to vote for President Obama. John McCain was a decent man and a centrist for sure. An anonymous Facebook user there says, command and control is the overarching ethos of reversing Roe, and it is not a compassionate posture for humanity. Truth. I thought I would get a little more play today, but I love you guys sharing the sentiments. Just so anybody wonders, because you'll always hear, and so maybe you haven't heard my spiel on why the Bible's not, why banning abortion is not in the Bible. So let's just take 1 Jeremiah 1:5. It doesn't say, when I formed you in the womb. It says, before I formed you in the womb. Now, the truth of Jeremiah is that it is a poetic prophecy, not a literal. We have to be very careful about taking poetry and making theology out of it. That's a really bad way to read the Bible. So Jeremiah 1:5 is a poetic prophecy, but it doesn't even say when I formed you in the womb, when life began at conception. It says before I formed you in the womb, before I knew you. And it is speaking to, and Psalm 139 as well says something, I don't know exactly how it's worded now off the top of my head, but it talks about at the laying of the foundations of the earth. So both of those verses are actually poetic verses talking about how the creator God of the Bible foreknew people before even creating the world. So it's not about life beginning at conception. It's actually life beginning at the conception of them in God's mind before creating the earth. So the Catholics are much more true to that passage, because Catholics disallow contraceptives because they believe contraceptives are taking the choice of human life upon yourself rather than allowing God to have the choice of life. So an evangelical who uses Jeremiah 1:5 to justify their anti-abortion extremism are major hypocrites if they use contraceptives, or even if they avoid having sex because they're afraid of procreation. By your definition of God being in charge of life, then you're violating that by using contraception, by not having procreative sex on a regular basis, having pleasure sex that doesn't have the option of an outcome of procreation. You are violating God's covenant of life. So not only is Jeremiah 1:5 not a support of evangelical anti-abortion extremism, it actually is an indictment of it. Psalm 139 the same, and Psalm 139 says something interesting. It says, God knew in God's book was written all the days of our life before there was one. So therefore, that verse tells us, well, God's not surprised by the abortion, so he has already provided the destiny for any soul that's lost in the process. So again, it's a complete fallacy. And then Luke 1, where John the Baptist jumps in Elizabeth's womb when Jesus entered the room. Well, the Bible personifies, or we call it anthropomorphizes, so many things that we can't say, well, that's a clear word that John was alive in his mother's womb and had a soul, because the Bible also tells us that trees clap their hands, and nobody says, well, we need to ban trimming trees and using them for paper. The Bible has a donkey talking. A donkey hears from an angel and talks. Nobody is saying we need to ban, beating donkeys and mercifully killing a donkey if it's not living well. And the Bible talks about rocks crying out, about the stars telling the story of Jesus. So it humanizes, it anthropomorphizes many things, and so you cannot say any of those verses. And then thou shalt not murder, which I love, because thou shalt not murder is a verse loved by people who are hugely pro-human killing weapon and are hugely pro-military and pro-war. So no, thou shalt not murder does not say life begins at conception and you should be a single issue voter. And by the way, the writers of Jeremiah 1:5, of Psalm 139, of Luke 1, not a one of them would have believed that life began at conception. It is simply not the Jewish belief. Crystal says, thank you for speaking out against these crazy Christian nationalists. Jesus was anti-religious nationalist. Those are the people that he was pointing his finger at and saying, you are whitewashed tombs. You are worthy of hellfire. Sodom will have a better judgment day than you. The evangelicals have such a parallel belief system to the religious system that Jesus spoke against. It amazes me that evangelicals can't see it themselves. Karen says, Congressional Representative Mary Miller proudly announced today that we are finally protecting white life with Trump standing there. I saw that. I love it. And people cheered like crazy for it. People stumble on their words. I'm not going to go too crazy on that. There are many more things than that easily show that racism is at the heart of right-wing republicanism and right-wing Christianity today. Jill says less trolls on this account for sure. They're also pro-death penalty. That's right. Mary Miller also quoted Hitler. Yes, she did quote Hitler. That's one. She was like, Hitler got this right. Kiva says, I can hear clearly the Lord, and he is saying, this is not faith. This is Satan seeking to control and have domination over the world with hate. What are you referring to there, Kiva? What is this that is not faith? Love to hear more. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Oh, one other note on anyone who believes that single issue anti-abortion extremism is godly. The nation of Israel, which evangelicals absolutely worship. I remember my father was a pastor, and he would preach all the time, if we ever stop supporting Israel, that will be it. We'll no longer be a great nation. And he and my parents felt like Henry Kissinger negotiating peace agreements between Egypt and Israel was evil, that they even thought he was the Antichrist for negotiating those peace treaties. And so if you worship the nation of Israel as an evangelical, and I'm not being anti-Israel here or anti-Semitic, I do think for the $3 billion a year that we give Israel, we should be able to say, hey, stop treating the Palestinians the way that you do. But I'm not being anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish or anti-Israel necessarily. But just so you know, Christian who supports Israel, abortion is legal in Israel, and it's paid for by the government. And yes, there is a committee you have to go for and meet some criteria, but I'm told they never, statistically never disallow an abortion. So Jill says the Hitler quote makes you think the white comment was not a slip. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong in that. It's not the quiet part out loud. It's just the norm for them now. Yeah, I mean, Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of Texas, I got a video with him a while back where he's fully enunciating replacement theories. Like Joe Biden's trying to bring in as many of those foreigners as he can because he knows they're going to have lots of babies and they're going to vote for, who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for Democrats because Democrats, they're trying to replace us. I mean, he like fully enunciated replacement theories, which is a fully white supremacist, racist belief system. Matthew on YouTube says, so grateful for your words. As a Christian, I can say this is not the love of Christ I know and love. This is a misleading morality that is steeped in love of power and not our Lord. Kiva says, what concerns me is that they want to overturn all the rulings that have ever set precedent. Yeah, they want to go back to 1950. Make America great again. That's exactly what, let's go back to the days when people have, you know, this would be them, not me, when those people knew their place, when husbands could spank their wives in the house or beat their wives and abuse their children, and that was their business. A boss could abuse a secretary, and secretaries were expected to put up with harassment and sexual innuendo, if not full-out sexual harassment and sexual assault. That's what Republicans want to go back to, the 50s, when white men ruled the world, and white women believe it because they've been taught this complementarian belief system that man is king of the house, he's king of the business, he's king of the church. Women, you just have to submit, and if that, you know, if he essays you, you know, you just pray that God will forgive him. You pray that God will forgive him, and you ask him to turn and change. And boy, you sure don't tell the outside world, you don't go before an evil worldly judge and try to do anything like that. You just keep it in the house, and we'll take care of him. We'll pray for Wilbur. We'll pray that Wilbur will stop raping you and beating you. It's a sick belief system with rulings based on 17th century reason. Well, that was the gun ruling, wasn't it? That now we have to meet 17th century standards. Jeez. They want to make us run, but we have to rise above. I would say right now, the only thing I can say is vote against Republicans at every level. If you're a thoughtful, coherent person, run for office if you can. Constitutionally, Clarence Thomas's wife can own him as a slave. Ooh. Wow. Jake says, how do we call out other churches, Christians who embody hate in a way that they'll listen? Jake, I'm sorry, they're just not going to listen. I believe Jesus enunciated, they no longer have eyes to see, they don't have ears to hear. And what did Jesus say about such a church? He said, not one stone of that thing will stand upon another. Somebody's saying Clarence Thomas is supposedly in the hospital again. Wow. I think he is a truly, truly deceived, corrupt, evil guy. You know, like so many Christians, you remember he had the thing about the pubic hair on the Coke can, you know, teaching sexual abstinence and purity, and then behind the scenes, that sexual repression is just not working, is it? Kiva says, anytime a Christian cares more about their beliefs than the heart of compassion, that's not God. Yeah. Hi, Donna. Sorry you can't figure out how to not be anonymous. Thank you for trying. Oh, Julie says it says her name for her. I don't know. For some reason, it shows up as Facebook user for me, Donna. Thomas will grandfather himself and others in. Thank you for sharing the live, Tricia. If you haven't gone to my TikTok page, Swearing Pastor Paul, and followed me, please do that. Do that right now. Go over to TikTok, Swearing Pastor Paul, at Swearing Pastor Paul. You see it scrolling on YouTube and Facebook. And go like, follow my page, comment on my stuff, share the live. Thank you, Jake, for sharing the live. So Jill says, my husband told me an infection of some kind. He is an infection. I don't ever want to root for somebody's death. Even when Rush Limbaugh died, I was like, you know, I'm sad, but I understand why some people are like, no, sometimes death is the only thing that can fix some problems. And so Jameson says, Clarence ain't doing so well. It would be somewhat ironic if he passed away while the Dems still controlled the Senate and the White House. Think about how evil Mitch McConnell is. That, you know, and Mitch has got to be patting himself on the back, and Newt Gingrich has got to be patting himself on the back. Their plans work perfectly to refuse to put Merrick Garland up for nomination and then rush Amy Coney Barrett through. How sick and hypocritical do you have to be to do that? Tricia says, you are helping my 16-year-old understand. That's awesome, Tricia. That makes me feel so happy. Jill says, some people make me understand why mortality is a blessing. RGB still hard at work. Oh, if we could have Ruth back. RBG. Thank you for the likes, Tricia. Kiva says, when we come to God, we choose with free will. Following law and 10 commandments isn't salvation. Love is, and they don't care about God. Kiva says, amen. Mortality is a blessing. For some reason, and I'm not going to condemn you guys or put my beliefs onto you, I just feel like I don't want to go there and ever root for somebody's death. What is that? Is that AccuAn1? Says, I blame other Republicans more than Trump. Well, it's been something Republicans have been building towards for much of history. What do you think? Do you guys like my earrings tonight? I think they're kind of cool. Always have. It's you know, what's funny is when I get Jill says, not rooting for death, but glad certain people won't live forever. It's interesting how when Christians start arguing with me, that eventually so many of them will come and say, well, you're excuse me for using this word. They'll say, like, you're a homo, aren't you? You know, and I will say, wow, you're sick. Earrings are cool, says Tricia. Jamie, I am in my wife's upstairs office in our house. My son and a couple of friends of his are downstairs, so I'm doing this upstairs tonight. So my wife used to work at our kitchen table during COVID, and I worked in my office was at home before COVID. And so I could hear her talk on the phone all day. And finally, I'm like, honey, I love you, but I cannot hear your voice all day long, every day. And it's not because of her voice or anybody. If it had been anybody's voice, I would have said, you got to move. You got to move, because I get distracted really easily. I struggle to keep myself on a straight path anyway. So, oh, nice, a change from your office. Yep, this is the upstairs office. I can't stop staring at the statement piece around your neck. Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? I don't know if you guys see it. I really love it. What does it look like to you, Navre? I mean, it's nothing of like family heirloom significance or anything like that. I just kind of like how it looks. So Kiva says, not rooting for someone's death, but that is so no one person can become the god of the world. Not rooting for Simone's death. I don't know who Simone is. Jameson says, I love your jewelry. Thank you. Yes, please. I want a closer look. Okay. Here it is. Can you guys see? Pretty cool, huh? I like it. I'm not sure where I found it. I found it in a jewelry store one day, and I was like, that's pretty cool. So yeah, part of what I want to do on my channel and my social media platforms is like say, we're going to start breaking down social norms and gender norms. Thank you, Jameson. He says, fabulous. I want men, and of course women, but women get to dress masculine a little bit more than men get to wear anything that is known to be feminine. That is awesome. Thank you, Navre. I want men to be able to wear what they want. And I was looking online last night, and men dressing feminine is becoming a thing. Did you know this? Like men wearing skirts and tights and leggings and things is becoming a thing, and like pretty cool studly looking men were doing it. So I really think like, fuck the patriarchy, and part of fucking the patriarchy is men. You want to wear turquoise dangly earrings, you wear fucking turquoise dangly earrings. Acuan says, yes, I love the change to the norms. Jill says, it's been steady trending that way for about a decade. Yeah, like Harry Styles and guys like that. And I just want to break down the norms. And I think gender's on a spectrum. I think sexuality's on a spectrum. I think dress should be on a spectrum. I think emotional health is on a spectrum. I even heard the other day that they're now getting rid of the diagnosis of, and then skinny jeans. They started with pink t-shirts and then skinny jeans. I'm not a big fan of skinny jeans, but I do like to wear leggings. Kiva says, back in the day, men wore way more jewelry and whatever smashed the patriarchy. Kiva says, Native and other cultures always wore jewelry, and rock stars challenge hate with punishing norms. I love it. David Bowie, woo, love it. Yeah, and so there's always been like these celebs and Harry Styles and stuff that do it. I want average guys to be able to do it, and I don't know. I've just always been a little bit jealous and intrigued by, why is it that women get to change their appearance? And trust me, women, I know part of what I'm asking is like, men get to get ready that like in 10 minutes in the morning, and women take an hour. And so maybe I'm calling a curse on myself, but I don't know. I've just always thought it cool that women get to, yes, accessorize, Jill, get to change their appearance through mascara and eyelashes and lipstick and all of those things. And I just have always thought that was really cool. And like any real man Christian that comes and says, well, that's, you just must be gay there. And then they'll say, yeah, great, fine. Karen says, burly men wear kilts. That's my Scottish friends always tell me, real men wear kilts. You should get fun colored glasses. Oh, that's a good idea. So yeah, if anybody has any ideas, like, I don't know what to do with tops. Is there like a male version of a blouse that you can wear like with tights or something? Anyway, I'm thinking about all this, and so I don't know. Maybe I want to start being like a male model for non-gender specific clothing for older Gen X men. How about that? and men get to be emotional and play with their kids and snuggle with their children and be tender. We have to change how we view masculinity because we need to move away from violence as the norm for masculine. Kiva, that is beautiful. Thank you. She says tank tops and there are go-to Rin fairs and buy. Pam says, I love listening to you. Thank you. Yeah, my nephew is either breaking gender norms or trans. I'm happy he has more vocab and role models. Jill says, I wear men's shirts mostly, so I don't know. All the rock stars wore girly blouses in the 70s, Steve Perry and Robert Plant. Totally, like, there's a part of me that wants to dress like the guy from Dead or Alive. Do you remember Dead or Alive? You spin me right around, baby, right around. And he wore kind of these flashy robes and stuff. Or the guy from Human League, I'm only human. And he wore all this makeup. He just looked really cool. I've always been intrigued by that. So, I'm playing with my hair a little bit. Yeah. You can always do yoga pants and leggings. They're so comfy. Yeah, I do have some of those. But I don't know what to do top-wise. Ooh, pirate shirts. I remember that episode from Jerry Seinfeld, pirate shirts. So yeah, there's got to be a blouse in there somewhere, doesn't there? Use the Nordstrom Rack app. Try on at home and return at the river. The puffy shirt, says Karen. Yeah. Amazon has that too. Yeah, you're right. Karen accidentally typed in the puffy shit. Yeah. Like Schitt's Creek, right? Maybe some loose style button-up shirts. Yeah, that's cool. And then I think a guy wearing a skirt would be cool. Like and heels and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. I just think it'd be cool. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are on board with me now. I need to get the rest of the world and give it a shot, Acuan says, I mean, the Scores have done kilts or the Scots, you mean, have done kilts for centuries. Yeah. Yep. And heels were made for men, right? All right, guys, I better get going and move on. I do have a little bit of work before I have to get to bed, but thank you. If you haven't gone to my TikTok backup account at Swearing Pastor Paul and follow it, please do that tonight. JD says, I'm not sure why anyone would want to wear high heels. I get it. And actually, as I'm talking about a lot of this, I hear women in reality and in my head saying, you're crazy what you're trying to bring on yourself. And so you may be right with that, guys. But yeah. Karen says, thank you. You are a positive presence, much needed. Yeah, thank you. Kilts helped with riding horses. Did they really? You can ride a horse better on a kilt with a kilt on? Isn't that what that one pastor that my friend April had on her page was saying? Women who ride horses do it because they're cheating on their husband. Literally, she had a video of a pastor saying a woman riding a horse or riding a bicycle was cheating on their husband. Sexually repressed Christians say the craziest things, don't they? Karen, thank you for that kind word. So JD, you're probably right. I would be crazy to want to wear high heels, but I don't know. There's something cool about it. There's something I don't know. It's just an expression of breaking gender norms, of just having different options for how to look. So yeah. All right, guys, I love you all. It is my honor to get to speak to you and that you would listen to me. I'm just some schmo out here in the middle of nowhere yelling stuff. So yeah. JD says, now platforms. Yes. Okay, JD, thank you. Heels were for stirrups. I agree. And also, weren't they to make men look taller? Like, weren't heels developed so that men could look taller? Facebook user says, so refreshed. Yeah, so let me finish. I've got my incense went out. Speechless. All pastors should be like you. Thank you, B. Nicole. Also, Jill would kill me if I didn't say this. Also, we have a newsletter that's not a newsletter. Everybody hates newsletters. So I'm not going to send you a newsletter, but I'm going to send you an email that gives news updates of what I do. And we're trying to think of a new name for it. So go to my backup account at Swearing Pastor Paul and follow it. And if you would, do me a huge favor and go to my website at Pastor Paul. What is it? Let me think about it. I need to type it in. Pastor-Paul.com. Pastor-Paul.com. And what am I'm everybody's sending me notes and it's really cool and I'm loving everything I'm reading. Pastor-Paul.com. Sign up for my newsletter. And I know newsletters suck, so we're going to come up with a better name for it. But if you would sign up for it, and if you can, if you're able to, and if you would like to, my website does provide opportunity for you to give a little bit of monthly financial support, and I would really love it if you did. You need your link tree on this account. Ooh, I do, Jill. I do. Ooh, I gotta remind myself of that. Jamie says, if you're nervous about trying on clothes at home, the Nordstroms. Yeah, I don't know if I can try on clothes at Nordstrom's yet. I'm not quite there. Thank you guys for encouraging my desire to be a male model of gender norm breaking clothing. So root me on in that. Okay. Pastor-Paul.com. Sign up for the newsletter. That's not a newsletter. And give me some monthly financial support if you can, and it won't put a hardship on you and you feel the content I do is worthy of that. If not, no pressure for that at all. And if you can, go to my backup TikTok account at Swearing Pastor Paul and follow, interact with my content. Let's start growing that account, because if you missed it, my main account, which has 117,000 followers, has been hijacked, stolen, and is being held for ransom right now. So just take a moment, close your eyes if you will. Deep breath. Just feel shalom around you. Feel peace. Feel a calm. Feel an ability to feel your feelings and know that you can survive feeling those feelings. And I bless you to feel those feelings. And if those feelings take you to a place where you get to start to process through some of the things of your heart, I bless that process. Right now, I'm sharing my love, my energy, and my hope with you in a mystical moment. And I bless you. I bless you to know that you matter, you are valuable, that you are amazing, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, you are not a sinner, you are not dirt, you are not depraved, you are not an original sinner. That's all a lie, that's all bad theology. Jesus came to tell you, to sozo you, to connect you to relationship with the Spirit of heaven that does not condemn, but brings reconnection, reconciliation, and regeneration. Jesus was about transformation, not repentance. He was about changing your understanding of who you are in regards to heaven, not to tell you you were bad and need to change. And I bless you in that. And I tell you, I am honored to share my love and to be a part of life with you, because you are worth it and worthy of love. Bless you guys. You're awesome. All right. Good night, everybody. Love you all. Goodbye, TikTok. And goodbye, goodbye, YouTube and Facebook. Thank you guys for hanging out with me.